Hi guys, welcome to day 3 of the Quad Heroes second edition Kickstarter relaunch. Just want to say thanks again for your support and for following along. It means a lot. I'm going to say that basically every day. Anyway, here we are on day 3. Yesterday and today, the campaign is starting to slow down a little bit. We're as I speak here, we're at 901 backers. And thanks to all of you for your support. It means the world. Anyway, we'll get started. So I have a bunch of things to cover in today's video update. The first is VAT. This is a big concern for those who are in the EU and the UK in particular, because VAT rates are high and the shipping is already, according to some, expensive. I can assure you that the shipping rates are as low as they can be and are based on the actual rates that I'm getting from my partners. They are rounded slightly, and maybe end up being less than what is stated. It may be slightly more. I don't know. By the time we go to shipping, those prices will be the actual shipping prices. But I do understand that having the idea of having VAT on top of that can be daunting for some people. Everything is so expensive. This is not an inexpensive game, and adding the VAT and the shipping can make it for some not affordable. So I'm doing my best to try to make sure that that it remains as inexpensive as possible. With that in mind, I have gotten a brief reply back from my partner, Quartermaster Logistics, on the topic of VAT, because since my last fulfillment campaign, which was the first edition Kickstarter, the rules and regulations in the EU in particular, and since Brexit, the UK now on its own, the rules in terms of this kind of thing have changed, and I wasn't, and still am not fully aware of exactly how it works. But realistically, how it works is that when I'm importing games into the EU, and I'm assuming the UK, taxes are paid. That's true basically everywhere. The issue is whether or not that, in this case, VAT tax, is applied back to backers. And I don't have the definitive answer on that yet. My gut instinct is it will not be, that I will absorb that. But I need to know exactly what I'm in for in terms of sort of an approximate cost and how much of a percentage-wise that's going to be. Because as many of you know, there are lots of other things that go into this. So when figuring out the price of a game, typically the normal rule of thumb for a game that's going to be going to retail is a minimum of 5 times the cost is what your selling price is. There are a bunch of reasons for that, but a lot of that has to do with distribution and sort of wholesale buying. They buy typically at 60% less than the MSRP, because then the distributors will sell to the retailers, and sort of everybody gets a cut, with the smallest cut being to the publisher themselves. While this Kickstarter edition of the game is not necessarily going to be a retail product, I used a similar model. The reason for that is, there are so many unforeseen costs. Things like freight is a huge cost, like basically just getting the games to the distribution hubs, which is always absorbed by the publisher or manufacturer. And all of the other numerous costs, right, that come out of what seems like profit, right? It's not just the difference between the cost and what the sell price is. There's a million things that factor into that, and hopefully in the end, as a publisher, I'll make some money. On the first edition campaign, I didn't make any money. In fact, I lost some money. And I'm trying to avoid doing that this time. So long story short, is there may be room to absorb some of that cost as we import into the EU. And my gut instinct is that I will not be charging additional VAT. However, once I find out the specific information there and get a sense of exactly what kind of cost is going to be involved from my end, I'll have the actual definitive answer. I'm hoping that I'll have a call today or a definitive email with a better sort of estimate of what that might look like from QML today. And when I do, I will post an update for sure, exactly explaining what's going on. But I'm pretty sure that both EU and UK people will not have to pay an additional fee during the pledge manager other than shipping. So, but that's not definitive yet. I know I responded in a comment yesterday saying that there will be no VAT. I'm sort of standing by that still. The question is, I just need to know exactly what that impact is because it could be backbreaking if it's too high, and I can't necessarily absorb that and be viable. Okay, so that's out of the way. Again, like I say, I will have a definitive answer hopefully by the end of today, and I will post that as an update. I'm doing my absolute best to make sure that all of these additional fees are as minimal as possible, and in hopefully most cases there won't be any besides shipping. The other thing I want to mention is yesterday I posted some social stretch goals, a few initial ones. They basically will unlock cards that we create together. I plan to do at least 5. And if you guys have some ideas for how to make that happen, or like some other social stretch goals, please, I'm all ears. I think the BGG one is important. Hopefully it's actually possible to get us on the hotness list. I'm not sure if that's achievable. But you know, basically what I suggest is going on the Quad Heroes 2nd edition page, liking, maybe posting in the forums, anything you see that mentions the game, you know, give it a like, subscribe, wish list, whatever, anything you can do. Clicking on image, like a particular image that you like for the game is helpful. Basically any activity. I don't exactly know how the hotness works, but just having the game there just brings it to so many more people's attention. And if we can do that, that would be fantastic. Another thing, I'll include the link in the update text here, is that Raul, one of our backers in the comments, and some others have been pushing the idea of KickTrack. For those that of you who are not aware what KickTrack is, it's essentially a Kickstarter tracking and sort of ranking page that kind of does projections on number of, like, whatever. It just keeps track of Kickstarters, and it's kind of like a BGG hotness things in terms of, you know, seeing your Kickstarter in the top few of that page, kind of on the rankings page, brings it to people's attention, right? Oh, like that game's really taking off, I should check that out, that kind of thing. And it's really a simple thing to deal with the KickTrack thing. There's actually a browser add-on which I use. It's actually quite fun. If you're a Kickstarter backer like I am, if you look at a lot of Kickstarters, you get lots of neat stats, and the little header appears directly within the Kickstarter page. It tells you how many comments per day, how many pledges, all kinds of really neat details about the campaign. And by using the browser add-on and or visiting the KickTrack page for that game and then linking back to the project, it sort of indicates that more is going on. Also, just commenting here on the campaign and being active helps as well. There's a bunch of factors, but that's really an easy one. During the last Quad Heroes campaign for 1st edition, I think we were at 1 or 2 on the KickTrack track every single day, and that was thanks to the backers really making an effort, and I think it helped the campaign quite a bit. So after those initial first few days of a campaign, things start to slow down. naturally, but I think that as a group we can sort of do our part to sort of bring additional awareness. I mean, obviously, I'm asking a lot of you guys. That's why they call this crowdfunding. I'm doing everything that I can think of to do. I'm running Facebook ads, and all kinds of other things, working my own social media as much as I can. But I can only do so much on my own. So as much as you guys can help, spread the word, talk about it, you know, in Facebook groups, talk about how much you love it, ask questions about it, see if people understand or know about it. Basically creating engagement, especially if it doesn't come directly from me, which sounds too much salesy, is great. Just getting people talking about it, even if even if they've never heard of it before. What else? So yeah, those social stretch goals, take a look, give me your feedback. If you want to find them on the Kickstarter page itself, they're toward the bottom, and you can click on those actual bars to get you to whatever social media page it is to sort of do your thing. So, you know, liking Wonderment Games on Instagram. We're also on Twitter. You can find us there, although I'm not super active on Twitter. I'm thinking that maybe a TikTok presence would be helpful. I don't use TikTok, but it's just the thing these days. If anybody has any ideas for some fun TikTok videos that could relate to Quad Heroes, that would be awesome. I'm a noob. I'm too old for this stuff, but I'm willing to learn. Another thing which doesn't apply to too many people, but people have been asking about kind of behind the scenes about retail pledge levels and how retailers can get in on this. Yes, we will be able to ship the game at a typical retail price, or retail purchase price, to retailers. So if you're a particularly brick and mortar retailer somewhere out there, we will have some details for you on that. Most of that will happen offline. What we'll probably do before the end of the campaign is basically just have some rules for retailers to say, pledge a certain amount of money to sort of place your hold on an order, and then after the campaign, we'll discuss the specific details in terms of how many copies and cost and shipping and all that. But I'll have those details available on the Quad Heroes website at some point, and I'll link everyone to that. So I will mention that specifically in an update as well, for those retailers who are following along. I'm happy to support you guys to get the game in this form out into retail. I realize that there's not going to be a wide retail release of this deluxe edition of the game. It's just not, really practical. But it will exist in a retail at some point in a sort of smaller, more compact, and way less blingy form. But anyway, it's enough on that topic. A few people have been asking, so I'll talk about a couple of things here that relate to Quad Heroes First Edition. The first being, people have been asking about, even during the last run of this campaign, people asked about the modular game boards from First Edition and whether they'd be available as an add-on here. And the answer is maybe. It depends on interest. See, the problem is there's a minimum order levels for any product, and I don't want to say produce 1,000 sets of modular boards, because that's typically a minimum order quantity. We might be able to get it lower on something like this, but lower order quantities mean higher cost, so more expensive. But it's something that I'm willing to talk about. But as part of that, I want to say that in North America, there are still something like 250-ish copies of Quad Heroes First Edition that are still out there and available on wondermentgames.com. If you're in North America and you don't have First Edition, there's a lot of really compelling reasons to own it. First of all, is all of the modular content. There are more than 200 tokens in First Edition. Plus, it's lots of sort of modular bits and 9 double-sided game boards with beautiful spot UV treatment for water and all of that. They're really quite lovely, and they provide a huge resource for both using the first edition scenarios with the second edition rules, and just for creating your own content. And you have the wonderful ability to rotate boards, which is a really fun aspect of the game in first edition that's kind of going the wayside with the way that the boards work in second edition. I mean, there's a lot of other benefits in going with the fold-out game maps that I think to a large extent outweigh that, but that's still such a fun aspect of the game that's certainly fully compatible with second edition, but because of the nature of the boards, it's not possible. So if you're interested in getting Quad Heroes first edition, it's at the lowest price it's ever been at right now. 99 bucks gets you the full bundle, basically, of the core box with all 11 heroes, 9 modular game boards, hundreds of tokens, cards, etc. As well as the Fringe Underground map pack and the dice and cloth bags add-on to hold your sheep and dice, and sets of dice for up to 6 players. So that's $99 US, and free shipping in North America, which is a pretty good deal, especially if you're in Canada, because the shipping to here costs quite a bit. So it is available. So anyway, I'm going to look into what it's going to cost to reprint just the boards. But just want to point out that if you'd like to get first edition, and you'll get it and be able to play it in the next week or so, and it is still a very compelling game. I demoed it the entire time I was at Gen Con this year and had a blast every time, and so did everyone else. So yeah, if you want to play Quad Heroes now and scratch that itch, it's a pretty good price for what you're getting. It's a 12-pound box, plus you're adding in the 3 more maps in the Fringe Underground with some additional scenarios and some beautiful dice and cloth bags that are, completely work with second edition as well. So yeah, I'm going to look into what that's going to cost, and then I'll get a sense from you guys. I'll send out a survey once I know what it's going to cost, and just say how many people are really interested in this. We're only sitting at 903 backers right now. I had hoped that number would be higher at this point, and I'm sure we will go much higher before the end of the campaign. But we do have minimum order quantities, and I don't want to have to produce something that I'm not going to be able to sell afterward. It's harder to sell just an add-on on its own later than it is to sell the game itself. So yeah, it's a possibility. So the other thing people have been asking about is the Fringe Underground expansion, and if it's going to be offered as part of this campaign or an updated version of that. And I don't know. My intention was not, as with the last thing we discussed, the add-on maps. But that's not to say it's not a possibility. We're very early in the campaign here. We're not even at the 48-hour mark yet. That'll happen in about an hour and a half, 2 hours from now. I guess a little more than 2 hours from now. We'll be at 48 hours on the campaign. So there's a long way to go, and yeah, so it is a possibility that that could happen. But there's some development involved in that to sort of translate the scenarios in particular over to second edition. The real only thing that needs to happen there is having sort of crystals on the board, because crystal powers are part of what's new in second edition, and they're really fun. And so you just basically need to sprinkle crystals around the board. So my intention, and this is going to happen, is to update the first edition scenario book as a downloadable thing, not as a physical thing, for both the Fringe Underground and the core first edition box, so that people can use all of the 30 scenarios in that scenario book. 30 is maybe a slight exaggeration. There's 3 tutorial scenarios at the start, and then a solo campaign and a whole bunch of other scenarios, but I think it's close to 30 total scenarios in the book. I'll just update the visuals on those to sort of tell people where to place crystals to update them to second edition. I mean, things like all of the tokens that exist on the board, the question mark tokens, can completely be replaced with the second edition secret deck without any trouble at all. So really, all of that first edition content is going to work beautifully with the second edition game rules. So that's not an issue at all. So yeah, Fringe Underground, like an updated version of Fringe Underground is possible, but again, there are still some quantities of Fringe Underground in English and German in Europe. Not the core game is basically sold out everywhere except in the States. But the Underground expansion and some dice add-ons are available. So if you want to get your hands on that stuff, feel free to grab those on wondermentgames.com shop. And we'll ship those out to you. But I'm going to look into what the Fringe Underground map pack would cost to sort of update as a physical product as well. But it would be nice to just sort of sell out of the ones that exist now because it is fully compatible with second edition. So if you are interested in Fringe Underground, you can get that basically anywhere in the world at this point. There will be an additional shipping charge if you're just buying that. I think free shipping starts at $100 on the web store. I think the Fringe Underground map pack is something like $20 on the website, and that has 3 double-sided modular game boards with spot UV for lava and stuff. So there's some effects and board elements on those boards, including the dreaded undergoat tokens, which add another sort of animal to the mix for Quad Heroes. So I mean, one of the things I considered when talking about this campaign was having some undergoat minis available to purchase. And I mean, that is a possibility. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If we do end up reprinting the Fringe Underground expansion, we probably will go with some minis in that, and I'll look into the price of that. It's going to be expensive to produce, but if enough of you guys are interested in that, I'll see what I can do. So your feedback would be great. Thanks. What else? Yes. So the last thing I'll talk about here, 2 more things. One is TTS Playthroughs. So I haven't started doing that yet. During the last campaign, we did quite a few, even though it was a short campaign. And I'm going to start doing those as often as I can. I'm planning to do a playthrough this afternoon, where even if it's just me, if you'd like to get in on that, I'm thinking 2 p.m. Eastern time, give or take. Perhaps a little later, but let me know and we'll get in touch. Probably the best thing to do if you would like to play on TTS is hop on the Wonderment Games Discord server. I will include the link in this update page, but also add that back onto the Kickstarter page. It was there on the last Kickstarter campaign. I'll pop that graphic back on there along with the link. So if you want to chat, and that's a good place to just discuss or reach out to me directly. I'm not super active on Discord, but I will get around to responding to your messages, and it's a good way to communicate. But if you want to play on TTS with me, being on the Wonderment Games server is kind of a requirement so that we can talk while we play. But yeah, if you'd like to play today, there'll be room for players. Even if I'm not playing, I'm just teaching. So I may end up just doing it on my own and record it or do it as a live stream and as a teaching and ask me anything sort of session, so that people can ask questions and whatnot, and I can sort of walk people through whatever you like. If you'd like to sort of know what's new, if you'd like to just play or whatever, I'm here for you guys to answer all your questions. So the last thing is someone posted, I can figure out who it is because I want to give him credit. In the comments thread earlier today, I guess it was Bloodspawn Devil, asked, he said, the sharpest criticism of this game is the rules conflicts I've seen. For example, with groups that need clear rulings for competitive versus or competition versus groups competing just for fun, just by playing by ear, the former dislikes and latter likes this game. So essentially what he's saying, he says, can you say if this has been improved or fixed in second edition? So essentially what he's saying is that competitive players are frustrated with this game in his experience. or I've seen this posted by someone, one person. It might be the same guy on Board Game Geek, and I've sort of tried to address this there, and it's sort of been an ongoing battle with just basically the issue of rules clarity in first edition. It has been my nemesis, and I've talked about this quite a bit in updates and live streams and whatever. And my answer to this is that even though it doesn't matter what my answer is, like realistically speaking, what matters is what people's experience is, right? And the first edition rulebook wasn't as clear as it could have been in terms of how to play. And in particular, from my experience in terms of all the FAQ items that I've responded to and that are found on the quadheroes.com website, is that a lot of it comes from what I didn't tell people not to do. And so there's probably 50 or 60, I don't know the exact number of FAQs, and most of the answers to those are actually found in the rulebook. But while people are playing, especially if they're learning from the rulebook, you know, without someone who's played before, people see that there's rules conflicts or things that aren't clear. And my answer to that is everything is pretty clear in first edition. I've played this game hundreds of times, if not more, at conventions, in my own social groups, whatever. Lots and lots of playthroughs. And while there are some things that come up occasionally that I've never encountered before, in my experience, there's generally an answer for those questions. To say that there hasn't been something that has come up where I've gone, huh, I don't know, wouldn't be completely truthful. But 99% of things that happen, I know exactly what's supposed to happen. And the issue is if the rule book did not in first edition explain those things clearly enough for people who are playing a like sort of competitive level where they need to know exactly what happens when this happens, that can be problematic, right? And as a competitive player of games like Magic the Gathering in the past, I haven't played much in the last few years, but I totally understand what that's about. And truly, my intention with the first edition rulebook was to be clear in that way, but I failed. So with second edition, that was the #1 priority. So I worked with Jeff Fraser to write and edit this rulebook. He basically wrote it from scratch based on first edition and my changes to the rules, and him and I playing through and having discussions. And I'm quite confident. If you take a look at it's a text-only format at this point. The layout, it will happen at a later date. But if you check out the version of the rulebook that's posted on the Kickstarter page, I think you'll find that it's quite clear and very specific about how rules work. And I think it's going to be a fantastic rulebook, and it takes so much weight off of my back, because my biggest sorrow with Quad Heroes to this point, with first edition that's sort of out in the world, is when I see ratings on BGG that are low because people just don't understand, or that they think the game is unfinished or whatever, and nothing could be farther from the truth. However, I can't blame people for coming to a conclusion based on what they have in front of them. If they see the rule book and the way that it's written or laid out or organized or whatever means that they have questions or issues, that's my fault. So absolutely 150,000%, those issues have been addressed with second edition. And before we go to print on this, you know, I'm going to share the PDFs along the way to make sure everybody sort of has had a chance to really look at it and process and make sure that it, you know, it lives up to the standard that I'm hoping it does. Jeff Fraser is one of the best rule book writers out there, if not the best. He's also a game designer. He's got a game with, it's on Kickstarter right now, co-designed by Catherine Hargraves. I think that's her first name. Designer of Wingspan and others. Anyway, so so Jeff's pretty well known and very respected in the industry, especially as a rules editor and writer. He's worked on lots of great games and has been praised for the quality of the rulebook. So I hope that that reassures you guys about the sort of quality of the rulebook and making sure that you guys are playing the game as it should be played. And on top of that, the changes for second edition go a long way towards sort of simplifying a lot of the sort of problem areas that people had before. I mean, all of the board interaction stuff remains what it is, but a lot of sort of rules have been put in place, edited, fixed to make it play more smoothly. And I think overall, like the player experience is a massive improvement in Quad Heroes. Each hero feels far more asymmetric, more unique, different play styles, despite the fact that you're still starting with the same, set of movement tiles. The upgrades are different. In particular, the Q powers and the crystal powers are awesome, and they really make each character feel so much different and add a new dynamic. And I think those of you who are first edition backers or people who are on the fence about it, yeah, I mean, it's really worth jumping in, especially if you're one of those people who has had the game on your shelf but not played it yet. There's a lot of compelling reasons to go to second edition, even if all you're doing is, backing at $1 and adding the painted minis to your game because you haven't painted it yet. I've heard people complain that they haven't played their game yet because they think the minis need to be painted. And while I deny the need that you really didn't have to paint the minis in first edition, they're ink washed. They're quite usable in my opinion, but some people didn't feel that way. So those people, if even if you don't upgrade, just grabbing a set of painted minis will make a considerable difference for your game. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to mention. Nope, that's it. I will briefly talk about some of the stuff that's going to be coming in future updates. I want to start doing, and you guys tell me what you think. I know this is going a little long, so how many people will actually reach this point in the video, I don't know. But I want to start doing some behind the scenes stuff. As the game designer for Quad Heroes, as well as artist and graphic designer, and basically, I'm not saying I created all of the art for the game, but everything you see on the Kickstarter page, all of the animation, all the graphics, every piece of that is essentially something that I made. And if you're curious about the process of that, I would love to do some live streams where I go through that process or we work on something together. And one of the things that I think is fun about the social stretch goals and the idea of sort of backer created cards is that we can go through the process of making a card from scratch, essentially. What I plan to do is have some card functions in mind, but then we craft what it looks like, what it's called, what the artwork is, all of that kind of thing, and do that together. And if that sounds like fun to you, I know it does to me. That's the part of all of this that I love. All of the social media stuff and the business side of making games is painful to me in a lot of ways because I'm a creative, and I like to bring ideas to life, and I like to see people enjoying the things that I make. And all of this sort of money stuff is the less fun side of things. And yeah, so having a chance to dive into some of the behind the scenes creative stuff is great. So you guys let me know if you'd like to see some of that. What particular, like I could even just talk about the animation side of things because that's fun, even though it's not about the game, but it's interesting to me anyway. Yeah, just let me know. As usual, I'd love to hear your feedback on anything I've discussed here, and I'll summarize it in some form in text on here as well for those of you who don't want to watch all this video. And those of you who haven't even reached this point yet. So anyway, guys, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. And again, I will probably be live streaming later today. I'll post a separate update about that. But thanks for following along, guys. Totally appreciate it. And spread the love. Let's make this campaign continue to grow. Thanks. Bye, guys.